it's not that we have a problem that he's a conservative or a Republican. We think he's a hypocrite and a traitor.
You know, Senator from the 22nd and 10th disagree with opinions, and I certainly get that. Number 9 was Senator from the 9th was a waste of time, and it was name-calling.
A bill to place a statue of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas on the grounds of the Georgia Capitol sparks debate in the Senate. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers on this day 12 of the legislative session. I'm Donna Lowry. More on the vote for a statue of Georgia native Justice Clarence Thomas in a moment. Also, the business of farming, agribusiness in Georgia, continues to adjust to changing conditions. We'll talk about a few bills looking to keep the farm economy churning. 2 lawmakers on the agricultural committees in each chamber join us in the studio. And we'll talk about immigration issues. There's bipartisan support for legislation to extend in-state tuition rates to refugee students, including those who recently came into the U.S. from Afghanistan. But first, let's head to the Gold Dome for a wrap-up of the day there with Capitol correspondent Brenda Waters. Brenda?
Hey, Donna. A Georgia native who sits on the Supreme Court could soon have a statue at the Georgia State Capitol.
Senator, I heard you refer to Justice Thomas's service as that he had served with great distinction. Is that correct?
That is my opinion, yes, sir.
Is that an opinion that all of the colleagues in this chamber share?
You know, it's each and every one to decide, absolutely. I certainly respect your opinion, as I hoped you would respect mine.
He's one of the more polarizing Supreme Court justices, and that was reflected in Senate debate today as they discussed a potential statue for the Honorable Clarence Thomas.
Let's talk about the story of a gentleman that we may not disagree with everything he ever did, every decision he ever wrote, everything he ever said, everything his spouse ever said. But let's agree on one thing. This is a Georgia story that for generations should be told in our state.
Clarence Thomas left the seminary college in the aftermath of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. because he did not believe the church was doing enough to address racism, his own actions as a young man. Clarence Thomas helped found the Black Student Union at Holy Cross and organized student walkouts. Those are facts, ladies and gentlemen. Those aren't myths. That's real life.
And it's not that we have a problem that he's a conservative or a Republican. We think he's a hypocrite and a traitor. He's an opponent of affirmative action. He's made that very clear. And the thing is, as an opponent of affirmative action, he is also benefiting and is still reaping the benefits and enjoys the advantages of his current office because of affirmative action.
We're not here talking about Justice Thomas as the man. We all have a great deal of respect, as my colleague from the second has already said, of his many accomplishments. We do. It's his policies, it's his rulings, it's his decisions that we find extremely offensive.
The bill passed 32-21. It goes on to the House. In the House, 2 other communities are following the lead of East Cobb in putting cityhood on the referendum in May. They are Vinings and Lost Mountain.
Present for your consideration House Bill 826, which would authorize a local referendum to create the city of Lost Mountain, Georgia, in western Cobb County. Essentially, this bill would, when passed, allow the voters who live within the proposed city limits to decide for themselves whether or not they wish to incorporate.
HB 826 passed 94-58. Making the Vinings community a city also came up for a vote, but not without some opposition.
This bill would provide for a public referendum on Vinings cityhood with a May 24th primary and looking to have November elections later this fall. The entire area is currently completely within unincorporated Cobb County and has, like I said, a population of about 7,000 residents.
As the only member of this House who represents Vinings and the community of Vinings, it was brought up in committee that I initially did sign on to this bill after talking with members of the community because I felt they needed the process to move forward. But after multiple town halls, conversations with the pro movement, the people that were against, I'm not sure where the 71% poll came from, but it was clear to me that this is not something that the residents of Vinings wanted. Mostly they called it a forced city.
HB 840 passed 99-56. Both city referendum bills were immediately transmitted to the Senate. In other news, under the Gold Dome, the Atlanta NAACP and community partners held a press conference to address what they are calling efforts by Republicans to reduce voting strengths by Georgia's non-white voters. They are referring to House Bill 873 that passed in the House last week, which would revise the district boundaries for Gwinnett County's Board of Commissioners. The NAACP fears this idea could spread to other counties.
The NAACP, of course, is nonpartisan. And these are not about Democrat versus Republican for us, but it is right versus wrong. All of those counties that are a majority non-white, where there's non-white leadership, are under attack.
Now, across the hall, there was overwhelming bipartisan support for a bill that would expand Medicaid coverage for postpartum women from 6 months to a year after giving birth. It passed in the Senate 54-0. And both the House and the Senate paid tribute to the late Pete Robinson, who passed away last year after a short bout with cancer.
There's a lot of great things throughout my district because of Pete Robinson. And Pete Robinson never cared if he was ever recognized for it or not, because Pete did it for the right reason. And the world today is not as good as it should be because Pete's not here.
The Columbus native was first a lawmaker in the Senate, then an influential lobbyist. Governor Kemp called him a great Georgian. Robinson was 66 when he died. That's my Capitol Report. Donna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. We're going to talk now about Georgia's leading industry, agriculture. Agribusiness has an economic impact in Georgia of more than $73 billion a year. 1 in 7 Georgians works in agriculture, forestry, or related fields. Georgia is the #1 state in the production of broilers, which are chickens, peanuts, pecans, blueberries, and spring onions. Joining me to talk about agriculture issues are Republican Representative Robert Dickey of Musella in Crawford County in Middle Georgia. He's also chair of the House Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee. And Democratic Senator Kim Jackson of Stone Mountain. She's on the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee in the Senate. Welcome to you both, to the Lawmakers. And Chairman Dickey, let's start with you. Let's talk about a bill you're sponsoring called the Freedom to Farm Act, House Bill 1150. It basically says farms and agricultural operations such as slaughterhouses need more protection against lawsuits for emitting smells, noises, and other activities. Tell us more.
Well, Donna, I just really want to try to keep Georgia the #1 state for agriculture and agribusiness in the state, and our farms need a little bit more legal protection in this state. And you know, we worry a lot about weather and markets, and I don't want our farmers having to worry about being sued all the time. And so this bill actually, Donna, will not really affect slaughterhouses or those type things. It just wants to give some certainty to what farmers been doing forever, and going forward, be able to continue to do that.
They're called nuisance bills.
Nuisance bills.
Tell us what to expect. What are we talking about?
Well, I think, you know, farms, we do different things, different seasons of the year, and we have a lot of encroachment now coming into Georgia. Into our urban area, from our urban areas, and a lot of these people haven't been around farms and don't know what goes on, and so sometimes they have a little smells and a little noise and sound and dust, and farmers just don't want to be worried about being run away from their farms with nuisance lawsuits. And that's this bill. We have a pretty good law now, but we just want to tighten it up just a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that law. That was for people who moved in, right? This is for people who may have been next to farms for a long time.
Well, yeah, and we got a good process here in Georgia, but it's some ambiguity in the law, and especially some other states, and we just don't want that to happen here. So we're not trying to make a big move with this, but just get a little more certainty in the law, so both sides, the neighbors as well as the farmer, kind of knows where they stand with with things that go on the farm.
Okay. Well, Senator Jackson, we're going to talk to you about something a little bit different. You have a bill that you say...
I'd actually love to talk about that.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
Bill.
Yeah, what do you think?
So I actually have some concerns about that bill. We already have a Freedom to Farm bill that's been working really well. It was introduced in 1989, and there's really no record of farmers getting nuisance complaints or random lawsuits. Existing farmers are safe right now, and I'm concerned that if we bring this new bill in, that it's really a bad neighbor bill, where it will allow big farms to come in that are holding lots and lots of dairy and poultry, and specifically pork, and then they'll create lagoons where waste will be. And then you won't be able to say anything about it. If you suddenly arrive next door and there's a huge lagoon of pig waste, this bill won't allow you to file a nuisance complaint. And I think that's a problem.
Okay. What do you say to that?
Well, I think you'll see some changes, some new language in this bill later this week that will specifically exclude that. And, you know, presently now, any kind of regulations, rules, or environmental problems this won't affect. And farmers always have to adhere to those type standards, and we'll continue. So I'm certainly for that. We're working all sides on this issue, and certainly want some support when it gets to the Senate. So we'll certainly be talking and try to address those concerns. I'm certainly open to doing that.
Okay. So let's talk about your bill, a little different. You're looking into an amendment to the Georgia Hemp Farming Act, and that would allow those who might have been convicted for misdemeanor crimes and certain felonies to be able to eventually apply to grow industrial hemp, right? Tell us a little more.
That's right. So currently our laws in Georgia say that if you've ever been convicted of a drug misdemeanor, so that's, you know, your simple possession, it's the thing that college kids kind of get caught with, that you can't ever apply for a license to grow hemp. And what we know is that hemp is this growing industry that will continue to provide lots and lots of opportunities for Georgian farmers. And so I want to make sure we provide access to folks who got caught up early on. And it will also make a pathway for people who've had felony convictions that were related to drugs. They have to wait a full 10 years before they could ever apply for a license. So there's kind of a waiting period here. And so I like to refer to this as a second chance. This gives you a second chance to be able to farm, to enter into this really great industry that is pretty new to Georgia, and to expand that so that we're not blocking out anybody because of some mistakes they made in their past.
So has this come up through a constituent who came to you about this?
Right. So when we were reviewing the hemp laws last year and making some changes, I brought it up in committee, and Tyler Harper agreed to work with me, a Republican, on this bill, and so he's the second signer on this bill. And really, it's bringing us into compliance with the federal law. That's what the federal law states. There's no exclusion for people with misdemeanors, and there's just a 10-year waiting period. So it's in many ways just bringing us to compliance, and I'm really proud of the bipartisan support that I have for this bill.
Okay, I know you pushed through the hemp law in Georgia. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think it's great. I think we need to do that and some other things to try to promote our hemp industry in this state. It's really taken off slow. We're a little bit behind some other states in being able to grow hemp. We've had some barriers in the law, and so I'm all for some things to get that diversification ag bill through.
Yeah, I've got to ask you, so you're a farmer in the Musella area, and you grow the peaches and pecans, right?
And some strawberries as well.
All right, so we all need to go on down there. So are you still facing, last year when you were here, we talked about the challenges to getting the workforce, to getting supplies, to getting things out to customers. What's going on right now?
Well, I'll tell you, we have had some challenges during this COVID time, getting supplies, containers. Our workforce problems have worked well, though. We've been very fortunate with that. And it's really a lot of the consumers that really want to come straight to the farm, a farm to table type thing, and know where their food's coming from. So I'm really trying to promote that and encourage that on our farms in Georgia. And we've got a great potential to do that.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk a little bit about immigration in the next segment, but I didn't know whether you were having any issues trying to get your crops out of the field.
My farm uses a federal program called H-2A that we bring foreign workers in temporarily, and then they go back. And it's a great program. It works well for them and for our farmers. We just couldn't have the workforce to pick and harvest fruits and vegetables in Georgia without that program. So I'm thankful for how well our federal government has worked that program.
Yeah, I know you like farm to table too when it comes to going straight to these farms.
That's right. So my wife and I own a 5-acre hobby farm in Stone Mountain area, and so
when you say hobby farm, what kind of hobbies?
I mean, she actually really hates that word, but it's not our livelihood. We're not dependent on it.
Okay.
But we're able to sell eggs, both duck eggs and chicken eggs, directly to our neighbors, as well as blueberries, which has just been a real gift, I think, for our community, and especially for children. A lot of children who grow up in urban and suburban areas have no idea where a blueberry comes from, that it grows on a bush, not a tree, and they certainly don't know how a chicken egg appears, right? And so we've had a lot of great joy in being able to bring kids onto our property and show them this is where the chicken comes from, this is where the egg comes from, and here's some chicks that you can hold too.
Are you selling some of it though?
So we do sell our eggs. So we sell our eggs to our neighbors, and we just try to keep it really local so that people do know exactly where their eggs are coming from, and they can come and see them running around. And so it's a lot of fun, and it's also really good for our neighborhood.
Yeah, so that's really good. You're doing it on a large scale. You're doing it on a smaller scale.
That's right.
Yeah, and you're both doing well right now.
We are.
That's $73 billion in this agriculture industry. Thank you both for being here today. I appreciate you coming in. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
After the break, we'll talk about some immigration bills, including one to help undocumented people who are facing domestic violence to call the police without risk of arrest because of their immigration status. You're watching Lawmakers on GPB.
Cigna is a proud partner of Georgia Public Broadcasting and Georgia Lawmakers. Cigna's mission is to improve the health, well-being, and peace of mind of those we serve. More at Cigna.com to learn how you can help support your employees' physical and emotional well-being.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Georgia Humanities, connecting people and communities across Georgia to encourage conversation, education, and understanding. Find out more at www.georgiahumanities.org.
We are the Southern Environmental Law Center. At SELC, we not only take on the toughest environmental challenges, we win, forcing the removal of more than 250 million tons of toxic coal ash, defeating repeated attempts to bring offshore drilling to our coasts, and securing clean air and water protections for communities across our region. Your most powerful environmental defender is rooted right here in the South.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. We're going to focus on bills that deal with immigration issues. Joining me are Democratic Representative Shelley Hutchinson of Snellville and Republican Representative Casey Carpenter of Dalton. Welcome to Lawmakers. You've both been here before. We love having you. Let's get some figures out there. 1 in 10 Georgia residents is an immigrant, while 7% of residents are native-born and U.S. citizens with at least one immigrant parent. So last year, a bipartisan House study committee examined workforce development issues among foreign-born Georgians. And among the issues the committees considered, how to help with education and professional training. And Representative Carpenter, you were on that House study committee called the Innovative Ways to Maximize Global Talent Committee. Long title. Tell us about it.
So yeah, it was a great committee. We met, actually they came up to Dalton. There was a couple other meetings, one at the Capitol, and I missed the first one, unfortunately. But it was basically just saying, look, we've got this untapped market of labor that's really highly educated, and we're trying to figure out a way to get them educated in a faster manner so that they can be productive citizens. And so it was just really neat to hear the stories and a lot of the innovation going around the state and trying to get these folks employed.
So you had a bill last year similar, right? When
Yep.
it came. So tell us the difference between the two.
So yeah, so my bill's still alive. Don't count it out just yet.
All right,
girl.
so tell us the difference between the two bills.
So my House Bill 120 is about the DACA recipients, about them being able to pay in-state rates at colleges with that have space. And so these are kids that were educated at our high school and our K through 12 program, and just giving them an opportunity to pay a reduced taxpayer rate so that they can afford college. Because I'm a big fan of finding solutions, and I think it's a solution to get folks educated and be more productive citizens. This particular bill you're talking about is actually for refugees and folks from Afghanistan coming over and being able to go ahead and instantly be available for in-state tuition. So refugees are vetted for like a year and a half, and then they come to the state of Georgia via the federal government places them in the state of Georgia. And so this would allow them to, since they've already been vetted for a year and a half and they've been placed in Georgia, to go ahead and skip that year of wait before they can get in-state tuition. Because we've got unemployment at 2.8%. And we need more productive, more educated workers. And so this, to me, is a great solution.
So Georgia colleges and technical schools, they'd be able
That's correct.
to go
That's
to.
correct. And it's just saying, look, these folks are here, they've been vetted, or they've either that or they were in Afghanistan and they helped the U.S. Military. Let's give them an opportunity to go ahead and get into the pipeline of education so they can come out more productive. Because a lot of these folks are overqualified, and you get them in here and they're having to do, they're either working in restaurants or stuff like that, but these are highly educated people in their country. And so we're trying to figure out a way to bridge that gap to get these folks moving.
Okay. Your thoughts on it? Any thoughts?
I think that's a great idea. I think that we need to have more policy to get people who are immigrants, and particularly new immigrants to Georgia, into the workforce, because as we all know, we're having a workforce shortage globally, really.
Okay, I want to talk about a bill you have for undocumented persons. You called it the Undocumented Persons Family Violence Protection Act. Tell us what that is.
So I work with an undocumented population, Spanish-speaking population in the Athens area. And my team who works there was telling me that they have a huge problem working with families who the victim is afraid to call the police because either they're afraid about their status or someone in the household status. So they were not calling for help. So, we have women who die every day from domestic violence. We have men who die from domestic violence. And this bill is to help ease a victim's mind when they have to call 911 that their immigration status won't be questioned.
Yeah, and so what problems does ICE create for that household? Do you any stories you can tell us?
Well, we've had our agency works with children whose parents have been deported, and it's so disruptive. It takes away a family's income, half, sometimes 3/4, or maybe all. And the trauma of losing a parent that way is something that never leaves a child or a family. So it's something that we will have to provide mental health treatment for the rest of their lives, basically, until they have the coping skills to handle what they've seen with their parents being deported. So I'd like to ease that a little more. I don't think that deporting everybody is the answer to anything. So if we nurture families into being productive workers and human beings, I think we're all better off for it.
So your bill is helping to make sure that families stay together a little more, but also that law enforcement doesn't give them fear that they have.
Yes.
Have you talked to people in law enforcement about this bill?
I have, and particularly I represent Gwinnett County, and law enforcement there, we work really well with them. As you know, we got rid of 287G, so they are not in favor of asking for everyone's status anyway. So they were
tell me explain that. So that's what 287G was.
So 287G was the relationship that I guess any county can have with ICE, and Gwinnett County was not super happy with our 287G and how it was working. It busted up families more than it did address any problem. So we were able to get rid of that, and law enforcement is very cooperative with this. They don't want families to be separated. They want everyone to keep their income. They want everyone to be safe and happy and thriving, and that's what I'm aiming to do.
Yeah, your thoughts on that at all?
No, I mean that's a real issue. I represent a 51% Hispanic district, and I will tell you that's an issue. What Shelley's talking about, or Representative is talking about it, it's an issue. I mean, you've got women that would otherwise be calling the police and saying, come to my house, I'm being abused, but they're scared to death because they don't want to face consequences. And that's just the reality of it. And you can push aside partisan politics, but she's right, that's an issue. And it does us no good as a state if their kids are legal and they're here, the kids are legal, but you deport the mom or the dad, the income's gone, and now what's left? The state and the rest of us and taxpayers are left footing the bill. So again, this is, I think, a solution. It may not be the solution people are looking for, but it's a solution to a problem that I think in the end, the net gain is worth more than otherwise for the state.
Yeah, so you're a business owner, and so one of the things that one reason this issue of just immigration and helping DACA students all, it's because there are people who can work for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that, it's my community, and I've seen the success of the DACA program has been for our community and where we would be without these kids. It's just, I mean, you're talking about removing 5,000 people if that program ended from our workforce. So that's just not a solution for Whitfield County, and it's really not a solution for the state of Georgia. Yeah. So we've got to continue to, we can let the federal government do what they want to with immigration, but in Georgia we got to come up with solutions, and I think these are solutions.
Yeah, you're feeling pretty good about your bill at this point, getting bipartisan support?
I think the bipartisan support is there. I'm not sure it'll make it past the finish line, but I think in theory that everyone is supportive of this.
Yeah, you got your heart is in it, and you see it every day, don't you?
Every day.
Yeah. I want to end with something on a little lighter note. Before we go, Chairman Carpenter, we want to show video. We want to show a little video from the House Creative Arts and Entertainment Committee that you chair from last week.
Man, that's a good looking there.
What is going on? I just want, I mean, it's obvious you take your position as chair of the Entertainment Committee seriously.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was just, that was our first meeting as me as chairman, and I was really just trying to keep it light. I did a lot of jokes with wigs during the pandemic, and I just thought it was funny. I don't know that it was well received by everybody, but it was just, since it was creative arts and entertainment, I figured it was okay to do.
What is it? A wig? Is it a?
It is. It's kind of a Rod Stewart / Motley Crue look. Yeah, yeah. That's the first time I wore that wig. So my employees, that's what they got me for Christmas. They got me a bag of wigs. So I've got a bunch of different wigs sitting around. And it's not that I don't take the job serious and the integrity of the position, but I think sometimes people need to look up there and realize, we're going to have a good time while we're doing the state's business, because to me, it's important.
Well, I watched the committee meeting, and you were serious the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Like the hair didn't get in your face. It was not a problem.
No, I mean, I got a big haircut to come on here tonight. But yeah, I mean, I joke around a lot. They'll tell you I joke around a lot. But I am serious about what we're doing. It's just, I like to cut up in the meantime. So.
We don't have a picture of, but during the Georgia game up in Indianapolis, you wore a blonde wig.
Yeah, I actually had a mullet for that one. So I was going to dress like an Alabama fan to kind of hedge our bets a little bit.
Yeah, and
it worked out. Victory, baby, national champions.
So you think that's the reason?
Well, I mean, I yelled a lot. I was really loud too. So I think between the two of them, I had a hand to play in it.
Yeah, sometimes it helps to have a little lightness, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's stress relief.
Yeah, and the Creative Arts and Entertainment Committee, they liked it.
Yeah, I thought it went over well. I don't think everybody enjoyed it, so I probably won't have a wig on the next time. But I do think it was a good start.
Yeah, well, you'd really have to decide what you're going to go for. Yeah, on that. Thank you so much for coming in. Always a delight to have you both on and working on some good issues. So thank you both.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us tonight on Lawmakers. You can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter at GPB News using the hashtag GPB Lawmakers. Also, don't forget to tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. on your GPB station for Political Rewind, hosted by Bill Naggett. We'll see you tomorrow for Legislative Day 13. Have a good night.
Thank you.